there is a heavy mask that many of us are taught to wear. It is the mask of being fine. Especially in spiritual or religious circles, there is an unspoken and deeply powerful pressure to perform a certain kind of acceptable piety. We must be grateful. We must be trusting. We must be joyful. And when we are not, when our inner world is actually a raging sea of anger, a desolate wasteland of grief, or a disorienting fog of doubt, we learn to hide it. We put on the mask. We say we are blessed. And in doing so, we are forced into a state of profound and lonely hypocrisy, alienated not only from our community, but from ourselves, and from the God we are pretending to trust. This pressure to erase our negative emotions is a modern phenomenon. We call it toxic positivity. And it is a quiet, spiritual violence that is completely foreign to the very texts it claims to uphold. Because in the heart of the Bible, there is a book. It is the official prayer book, the hymnal of the ancient faith. And it is the most brutally honest, emotionally raw, and psychologically unfiltered collection of writings in the entire Western canon. It is the Book of Psalms, and it is a divine permission slip for you to take off the mask. It is a sacred script that gives voice to the full, messy, and often terrifying spectrum of human emotion. And it teaches us a radical truth, that the most honest prayer is not always the most polite one. When we think of the Psalms, we often picture the peaceful imagery of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. And those Psalms are there. They are beautiful and true. But they represent only one room in the vast, sprawling mansion of the Psalter. In other rooms of that mansion, we find a very different kind of prayer. We find the prayer of profound, bottomless despair. Like in Psalm 88, which is being called the darkest chapter in the entire Bible. It ends not with a note of hope, but with the line, "Darkness is my closest friend." Let that sink in. The official prayer book of the faith includes a prayer that ends in utter darkness. We find the prayer of furious, vengeful rage. In Psalm 137, the psalmist, remembering the brutal destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, cries out a horrifying blessing on anyone who would take their enemies' infants and dash them against the rocks. We find the prayer of bitter, cynical doubt. In Psalm 44, the psalmist accuses God directly of abandoning his people. You have rejected us and humbled us. You sell your people for a pittance. You make us a scorn and derision to those around us. This is not the language of quiet trust. This is the language of the courtroom, of the betrayed lover, of the angry, grieving child. So what is this raw, uncomfortable, and often shocking material doing in a sacred text? It is modeling for us a form of prayer that our modern, sanitized spirituality has largely forgotten. It is modeling the Psalms of Lament. Biblical scholars have identified that the lament is the most common type of psalm in the entire book. More common than praise, more common than wisdom. The most frequent form of prayer in the Bible is the complaint. These laments are not just random emotional outbursts. They follow a surprisingly consistent and psychologically brilliant structure, a kind of sacred blueprint for how to process our darkest emotions. Let's dissect this divine protocol. A typical lament has 4 key parts. First, it begins with an address or a cry for help. It often starts with a raw, direct, and sometimes accusatory address to God. "O Lord, how long will you forget me?" Forever. From Psalm 13. This is a courageous act. The psalmist does not talk about God in the third person. He turns toward God and speaks directly to him. It is an act of relationship, even if it is a conflicted one. He is refusing to suffer in silence and isolation. Second, and this is the core of the lament, is the complaint. This is where the psalmist unleashes a brutally honest, unfiltered, and often visceral description of their pain. They complain about their own suffering. "I am worn out from my groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears." They complain about their enemies. "My foes persecute me without cause. Many are the foes who hate me without reason." And most shockingly, they complain about God himself. They accuse him of being absent, of being silent, of having forgotten them. "Why, Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?" This is the part that makes our modern sensibilities uncomfortable. But it is the most vital part of the process. The Psalms insist that there is no emotion so dark, so angry, so shameful, that it cannot be brought into the presence of God. In fact, the Psalms suggest it is the only place it can be brought. Third, after the complaint has been fully voiced, there is a petition or a request for help. Having articulated the problem in all its raw detail, the psalmist then makes a specific appeal for rescue. "Turn, Lord, and deliver me. Save me because of your unfailing love." This is a crucial move. The prayer does not stay stuck in the mud of the complaint. It moves, however tentatively, toward hope. It is the act of asking for help, even when help feels impossible. And fourth, and this is the great mystery of the lament, there is often what scholars call the turn, a shift in tone from complaint to an expression of trust or praise. Often, with no apparent change in the external circumstances, the psalm will suddenly pivot. For example, Psalm 13, which begins with a desperate cry of, "How long, O Lord?" ends with this stunning reversal. "But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me." What happened? The circumstances haven't changed. The enemies are still there. The pain is still real. What has changed is the psalmist. This is the psychological genius of the lament. Modern neuroscience and psychology have a term for this process: affect labeling. Studies by psychologists like Matthew Lieberman at UCLA have shown that the simple act of putting our negative emotions into words, of naming them and articulating them, actually reduces the activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear and anxiety center. When you can name your fear, your anger, your grief, it loosens its grip on you. It moves the emotional energy from the reactive, primitive part of your brain to the prefrontal cortex, the seat of conscious thought. The ancient practice of the lament is a divinely inspired form of affective neuroscience. The psalmist, by articulating his rage, his fear, his despair, is not just venting. He is performing a profound act of emotional regulation. He is bringing the chaos of his inner world into the ordering principle of language. And in doing so, he creates the internal space for the turn. By fully honoring and expressing the darkness, he is able to see a glimmer of light. The Psalms teach us that the path to praise is often through lament. You cannot bypass the complaint to get to the trust. You have to walk through it. But the Psalms go even further. They don't just provide a technique, they provide a relationship. The entire practice of the lament is built on the audacious belief that God is a safe container for our most difficult emotions. In therapy, a safe container is a relationship in which a person can express their deepest shame, their ugliest rage, their most profound grief without fear of judgment, rejection, or abandonment. It is the safety of that container that makes healing possible. The Book of Psalms, by its very existence, frames God as the ultimate safe container. The inclusion of these raw, violent, and desperate prayers in the sacred text is a radical statement. It tells us that God is not a fragile, easily offended deity who requires us to be polite. He is not a fair-weather friend who is only present in our joy. He is a God who is present in the full, messy, and often terrifying reality of our humanity. He is a God who is big enough and loving enough to absorb our rage, our doubt, and our despair. The psalmist's brutal honesty is not a sign of his lack of faith. It is the ultimate sign of his faith. He has enough faith to believe that he can bring the absolute worst of himself to God, and that God will not abandon him. This completely reframes our understanding of so-called negative emotions. In the world of toxic positivity, anger is a problem to be solved. Grief is an illness to be cured. Doubt is a sin to be confessed. In the world of the Psalms, these emotions are something else entirely. They are the raw material of a real relationship with God. They are the honest starting point for a prayer that can lead to genuine transformation. The Psalms give us permission to stop pretending. They invite us to take off the mask of being fine and to bring our full, authentic, and often conflicted selves into the presence of the divine. Because the story they tell is that it is only when we are this honest that a real encounter can begin. The healing is not in the absence of the darkness, but in the courage to speak its name in the presence of the light. So let's end, as we always do, with a practical act of integration, a live benefit. Let's call it the unfiltered prayer. This is your permission slip to pray the prayer you have been afraid to pray. Take 5 minutes today. Find a quiet space and choose one difficult, honest, and perhaps unholy emotion you are feeling right now. It could be anger at God for an unanswered prayer. It could be profound grief that feels like a lead weight on your soul. It could be a disorienting doubt that is shaking your foundations. And on a piece of paper, or just in the silence of your own heart, articulate it to God with the brutal honesty of a psalmist. Don't be polite. Don't worry about the right words. Use the blueprint of the lament. Address him directly. Tell him exactly what is wrong. Complain. Question. Accuse if you need to. And then make your request. Ask for what you truly need. You don't need to force a turn to praise. The only task is to be honest. This is the prayer of the Psalms. This is the prayer of a real faith. If this exploration has opened up a new, more honest way for you to approach your own inner world and your faith, then this work is finding its purpose. Subscribe to Soul Scripts to continue this journey of finding a faith that is big enough for all of our questions and all of our emotions. And in the comments, if you feel comfortable, share one taboo emotion that you feel relieved to know has a sacred place in the prayer book of the Bible. Let's create a community that celebrates honesty over performance. Thank you for being real with us today.